All right, let's go. Finally, a topic that is not related to Conor McGregor putting his hands places that they're not supposed to be. You know, can I put my hands in your pants? No. Yes. No. Yes. No. We're going to talk about Tyson Fury, who has gotten the UFC to agree to something they never would have agreed to in any other circumstances if it wasn't for the exact set of circumstances that we have now. And everybody needs to give credit where credit's due, regardless of how this plays out, because Tyson Fury is negotiating for the same type of fight with both the UFC and with Francis and his team. Same set of rules. And how this happened, there is no question that the reason this is happening is due to one party, you know. So everybody needs to give it up to them. I will go through who that is shortly. And then also Mountain Mass, thank you very much, dude. And then we're going to talk about this too. All right. We're going to talk about this too, because I have a theory about this right here. That Nate Diaz is very overweight. He weighs over 220 pounds, supposedly. He has to weigh 185 for this fight. People are saying he's way out of shape. No chance he's going to be able to make weight. I want to talk about this particular story because I have a theory about it being fake. I think it might be disinformation. You know, getting Jake Paul's head a little bit. Maybe. And then we're also going to look at this. We're also going to look at this thing with John Jones and Francis facing off at the PFL. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. John Jones wearing a PFL shirt, which is really weird to me. Like I'm I've been trying to back into the strategy there. I'm like, why would he be wearing that? You know, like there usually when there's a lot of money involved, like a lot of money, which there are every single time, you know, there is, you know, anytime that you see any of these guys, Deontay Wilder, Francis Ngannou, you know, John Jones, Tyson Fury, anybody who's circling around each other, talking about doing these fights, you're talking about a lot of money. And so a thing like a guy, you know, especially John, who completely understands publicity very, very well and PR, you know, you see a thing like that, a lot of times there's some strategy behind it, but I have literally triangulated this every way that I can. And I just keep landing on it's John. He's having a good time. He's going to a PFL event. So he just doesn't want to look like he's being a dick. And so he wears a PFL shirt. Like, yeah, I'm here. I'm the UFC champion, but I'm supporting PFL tonight. You know, that would be my guess. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wearing it to support me, Maurice Green. All right. So there you go. That's exactly, that is exactly what I would have expected. This will never happen. There's absolutely no way that UFC and PFL will ever do a cross promotion. Not because of PFL. UFC will never do that. They will absolutely never, ever do that. Oh, shit. Oh. Sorry, you guys. This is like actually a really important phone call. I'm going to see if I can. Like a really tragic situation, dude. A good friend of mine's husband died yesterday or the day before. Very, very tragic situation. Sorry, hang on. Okay, so anyway, so this, the Tyson. Okay, so first of all, the Tyson Fury and UFC mixed rules thing. All right, it's not my law. No. I appreciate you guys, but it's not my thing. Like it's a girl I'm really good friends with. Her husband, I didn't know him very well. It's not like that. It's not like that for me. I just, I told her anyway, it's not here there. So the Tyson Fury and UFC thing. Okay. So UFC officially, let me Let me just read this real quick. Okay, so Tyson Fury claims UFC has offered him a hybrid fight with Jon Jones, the world heavyweight boxing champion, UFC title holder, have been linked recently. And he said, I want to just read this so we get this exactly right for what he said. Tyson Fury's claimed the UFC has offered him a hybrid fight with Jon Jones. WBC heavyweight boxing champion Fury has been linked with Jones, who has yada, yada, yada. I've been in talks with Francis Ngannou for a hybrid fight, Fury said on Twitter Spaces. There's talks of me and Jon Jones doing a hybrid fight. As we talk right now, I received an offer from UFC yesterday. Okay. I received an offer from UFC yesterday. So you never know what's going to happen. The future's bright for sure and a lot of options. Okay. So just right out of the gate, to really wrap our brains around exactly what he's talking about. Okay. We're talking about the fight that him and Francis were going to do. And I will never stop saying this because it's, if it was just some flash in the pan thing that I mentioned in passing, kind of like, well, that'd be cool. And then have this idea for this hybrid fight, was in my head for years before I mentioned it to anybody's team. And then it's just common sense when you really think about if you take everything else out of it, oh, well, what belt are they fighting for? In the UFC, well, they don't really do that, whatever. It's just no, if you're just thinking about two guys fighting under any rule set where you're just curious, you're like, I wonder who would win this fight. I'm really genuinely curious who would win this fight. What is more interesting than one of the best? My original idea was Deontay versus Francis, and we might end up getting that. But it's a world-class heavyweight boxer against a world-class MMA, champion. And so when Francis and Tyson Fury started talking about that, because again, my vision for that was what's going to sell, how can this sell the most possible pay-per-views? Okay. And you're thinking what's going to incite people to buy it versus people not buying it. And to me, it was simple. It's the only reason anyone would not buy the Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou boxing match is if they are convinced that Francis cannot win, or they're there's no chance he's going to win, right? You put it in MMA gloves and all of a sudden that changes where it's and I'm not saying that makes it better for Francis to win at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but to a casual fan who are the people who are going to dictate how many pay-per-views it actually sells, because I'm buying it no matter what. They could be doing a thumb war and I would buy, 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb. I'll pay for it. You guys will pay for it, but for casuals, they're oh my God, MMA gloves. Well, that changes things, to a smart person. You're all, yeah, it makes it more advantageous for Tyson Fury because he could stick that jab, but anyway, so that was kind of the vision there that they started talking about. And the specter of a Tyson Fury fight was one of the primary drivers that led to Francis leaving the UFC as the heavyweight champion. Right. And again, as much as people can, I don't know, if they want to, the UFC has no other option other than to downplay the impact of that, of course. Because what are they, you know what I mean? They're a fight promotions company. Their entire job is putting together events and then promoting them. That's the whole entire purpose of that company. And so in order to do that to the best of your ability, you need to create the idea that the best fighters in the world are fighting in your organization. Okay. You can't ever even, you can't even do even a moderate indicator that there might be a challenge to that perception. Right. And that's why, given the fact that, given the fact that they've never lost a champion while in his prime, and having the belt, and simultaneously they just lost Nate Diaz, who is co-promoting a boxing match. I can't stress this enough. They can't let Francis and Tyson Fury do some huge event, and then have Francis Ngannou end up making an enormous payday. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but I can't. It's like there's no way to stress this enough how important that is to the UFC's business. Because the second that happens, they will start leaking champions. That is what will happen. If if someone goes and makes $50 million on a fight, and that might be on the high side. I don't know. I don't understand how, these numbers that people talk about in the boxing matches are totally insane to me. But, when a guy makes high side in a UFC fight, 10 million, you know what I mean? It's like you have Francis go out and see monumental success. You will have people eyeballing free agency, et cetera. So the UFC will combat that at all costs, to the point where they will compromise things they've said they've never do. They would never do a thing like that. We don't do sideshow fights. We don't do mixed rules fight. We don't do, that's not what we do here. Right. And then it's like, but maybe in this case we can make an exception. Maybe we can do a mixed rules fight in this case because it's Tyson Fury against John Jones, and it would be this huge event. It's like they would never in a million years even consider that if it weren't for the Francis and Tyson Fury thing. There's no way they would even consider it. None. Zero. No chance. Right? So, to me, like, you got to give credit where credit's due. Whether you end up with the Jones versus Fury fight, in which case I would pretty much guarantee you'll end up with the Deontay versus Francis fight. Like, the fact that UFC is throwing a mixed rules fight to Tyson Fury and Tyson Fury takes that public, it very much legitimizes the entire thing of these top level boxers fighting top level MMA guys. Like if John Jones ends up fighting Fury and people go, oh, the UFC won. I'm telling you, that doesn't mean UFC won, because what will end up happening is Deontay will end up fighting Francis, and you want to know who wins in that situation? Us. Everyone wins, in all honesty. I mean, I don't think the UFC will consider that a win if Francis gets a huge blockbuster fight against Deontay, Tyson, those are probably the two that it would be. But they really want to block Tyson Fury is the biggest star honestly, he's the biggest star in combat sports. So for Francis to be able to leave the UFC and then his team demonstrate that they could put together a blockbuster fight with Tyson Fury would be a really big deal. If Francis ends up getting that fight while UFC has their name in the hat with like official offers, etc., that would be a monumental accomplishment. Monumental. I don't know enough about the fight business, on the side of, like in terms of like putting together an event like this, like UFC, I kind of, I'm not going to say like I understand UFC's, but I understand the mechanics of UFC's business. I understand how they function. I understand the kind of corporate structure and how, like, I understand all that stuff. When it comes to, hey, I have a fighter right here that has a huge name. He's completely independent and he wants to fight this other huge fighter who's independent. Let's put this thing together. I have absolutely, like, I would be woefully underqualified to do that, which is why I can't really speculate on what the odds are of which way this thing goes. But, again, dude, it's right here. He's got official offers from the UFC. And again, like the reason, I don't remember, what did I title this? Dana White agrees to Tyson Fury's special rules. Yeah. So again, like the reason I titled it that is because that's exactly what happened. For Dana or for the UFC to give an official offer to Tyson Fury for a special rules fight. What that means, there's this common sense. They offered him a UFC fight, and he was like, no. He's like, I'm not grappling with anyone. You guys saw that. You saw him interviewing, you saw the conversation that he had with Israel Adesanya. He's like, I'm not getting on the ground with anyone. Okay, that's a negotiation, right? I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I'm not getting on the ground with anyone. Okay. And then so they offer a mixed rules. That's them agreeing to a special rules fight because Tyson doesn't want to involve grappling, which honestly, listen, that's a much better event. You know, it's a much better event. There might not be kicks. There might not be kicks. I mean, but there might be. I mean, listen, dude, if I know Dana and them, they're going to want to make it as close to mixed martial arts as possible. Why? They want their guy to win. Okay. I hear you like, oh, you know, there won't be kicks. Listen, that might be how it ends up. But if that's how it ends up, it will come on the other side of Tyson Fury negotiating that. Because again, the best case scenario for UFC, this is a mixed rules fight. There's no like Tyson Fury is not going to become the UFC champion and then keep the belt. If John Jones fights Tyson Fury, the UFC wants John Jones to win. Okay, what gives John Jones a better chance to win? Pure striking with maybe like, you know, dirty boxing and clinch work, or the whole Monty, where John Jones can do spinning back kicks into his solar plexus. Of course, like that's John Jones has a better chance of winning if they have kicks. So for sure, in the initial offer that they give to Tyson Fury, it'll be mixed rules. It'll take ground grappling off the table with everything else still there. Elbows, clinch work, kicks, knees. That's essentially what the initial offer will be. I would bet my life on it. But you know, and then like, and on the Francis side, when they were talking about the mixed rules or, you know, special rules fight for Tyson Fury, it was a boxing match in MMA gloves, just straight up. It was like, we're going to box just in MMA gloves. You know, see, okay. So like, I understand, like, you know, Dana's a super combative guy, of course, but this is not this particular situation. There's much more to this than being petty. Like, this is not about being petty. You know, I mean, it is, but it's not. You know, I saw like what I was saying earlier about how I thought Chael had such a good take on John Jones boxing Tyson Fury. Let me talk about that real quick. So Chael had, you know, said two things that I saw last night that I thought were really sharp, especially that part. But like the other one that obviously I knew was, he was like, you think that, like, Dana said he won't do it for Francis, but of course, well, doing it for Francis and doing it for John Jones are two completely different things. Now you get to go stick it to the guy who walked on you. Well, now of course he'll do it. And so of course there's that. Absolutely. There's that. But the bigger incentive in the right now comes from a corporate strategy perspective of not letting Francis have a blockbuster fight if they can avoid it, because of the leakage that it will cause, where every single other big star champion is going to be looking for an exit from their contract so they can go do the same thing. Like, can you fucking imagine? Can you imagine what Conor McGregor could generate if he self-promoted any kind of combat event? Conor McGregor versus 3 homeless guys on the street. Like, the point is that's impossible for the UFC to compete with for certain guys. They just fundamentally, they can't compete with it because the UFC has this huge apparatus. You know, they have people that are working for them 365 days a year. They're on salary. They have health benefits. You know, they've got executives that are extremely seasoned, like really, really, really seasoned guys. You know, from long careers at huge successful organizations. Like, you think that they're coming to UFC and they're making 150 grand a year? Like, you have to pay all these guys. They have the Performance Institute. Their whole business model is to build this bubble that all of the fighters live inside of. And it's a machine that just cranks out events, and they just grab their guys, put them in events. It makes it so much simpler for guys to know when they're going to fight. And if you spend any time, even a little bit of time, trying to book a fight outside of the UFC apparatus, then you understand how valuable that is. The fight business is a complete and total clusterfuck. I mean, you guys see how big of a clusterfuck the UFC is, and it's by far the most well-oiled machine by 100 miles compared to these other, you know, things that people try to put together. It's a complete clusterfuck top to bottom with these other places, because they're one-offs. But because they're one-offs, if you're Conor McGregor, you're going to put on one event. You don't have I can't even start to estimate the fraction of the costs that you have, the overhead that you have to absorb in order to put on this one event. The UFC, I mean, so it's like for they all of them will be looking to try to get out of their contracts if Francis is successful. That's why they're doing this. That's why it's such a high priority, you know? That's why it's such a high priority. Julian Shell, thank you very much for the super chat. Francis versus Tyson or Francis versus Jones? Which do you think will sell more pay-per-views? Also, do you think the Wilder versus Francis finally happens? Thank you very much for the super chat, Julian. Okay, so the answer is whatever has Tyson Fury attached to it does the most pay-per-views. Bottom line. I mean, like, and if you're talking Francis versus Jones versus Francis versus Tyson, that is not close. That's not even remotely close. The Tyson Fury one does way more buys. That's what I'm saying. Tyson Fury is the A side of any combat sport pay-per-view, period. You know, and especially in some kind of mixed rules thing that no one's ever seen before. He's not wearing big boxing gloves. People are going to be like, man, can you imagine what this guy could do? And then there's the curiosity, whatever. You know, the real question is which sells more pay-per-views, Tyson Fury versus Ngannou or Tyson Fury versus John Jones. And it's hard to say just because the rule sets are different, you know. I think Tyson Fury's like contractual situation with his promotion, like who manages him, is now different also. I feel like I know that to be true, but I can't tell you the details, so I don't want to like stamp my name on it for sure. And the only reason that seems relevant right this second is because of how sloppy things have seemed around him recently. You know what I mean? Like these guys, they announced fights. You know what I mean? Like if you guys notice, there's a sloppiness to, not to Tyson Fury personally, but to the business around him. We're all, you know what I mean? Like we're fighting we're fighting Ruiz in July, and there's like, oh, never mind. Or Dillian White, we're fighting him, whatever. Oh, never mind. Oh, we're doing Ruiz in July. Oh, never mind. Oh, we got this thing going on towards the end of the year, maybe, but we don't really know. Oh, we got France. It's sloppy, and I'm just saying this, noticing it, because before I'm almost certain that he, I believe, was with Top. Don't hold me to this. I think he was with Top Rank and he was getting out of that. Like he was towards the end of his contract. Anyway, I don't even remember what the question I was answering was, but then also, do I think that Francis and Deontay happens? Yes, I do. I think that if you get one of these fights, you'll get both. That's what I think. I think if you get one, you'll get both. I don't think that you can count Francis out of this Tyson Fury one either. I mean, it is a huge David versus Goliath situation for sure. Because even though Tyson Fury is the A side, he doesn't have like combat sports industry infrastructure juice behind him. Like the UFC, have you ever heard the term like, big swinging dick? The UFC has a fucking 24-inch dick they can slap people in the face with if they feel like it. There's no one that it's a David Goliath thing for sure. He's the biggest star, but there's a huge difference between a star and the actual shit that really matters behind, putting these things on. So if Francis and Markel and those guys and their team can actually win and get that, it would be an unbelievable accomplishment. It'll be an unbelievable accomplishment if, when they do one of these fights. If they Fury ends up doing UFC and they end up doing Deontay, I mean, that would be that, I think they will. So I'll say they will. That would be, really, if they get Deontay to agree to an MMA fight, if they get Deontay to agree to a boxing and then MMA fight, that would be incredible. And they'll make a fucking fortune. Soma, thank you for the super chat, dude. Do you think UFC and Endeavor would start to try pushing fighters towards WWE transition after UFC careers simply to keep cash cows under the same umbrella, also away from boxing at the same time? Thank you again for the super chat. So I think it just depends on the UFC fighter. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there are very few Because what's WWE? WWE is a performance. It's very different than being in a mixed martial arts fight. And so really what you're looking for is someone like Ronda Rousey, who like really has that magnetism. Like the reason why they become like this huge star is not just because they're winning fights. It's more about, that they've got that thing, right? Connor has that, Ronda has these like very, very, very small group of people who really have that, like that kind of thing. They're that level of star, and then they could perform under the lights. And then, you might get a few guys that go do, some performances or what, or like, they'll do like a short stint on there or whatnot, but I don't know. I like seeing it, and hold on, let me see. So like, keep them away from boxing at the same time. See, the thing is, I don't think that these guys, after UFC careers, I don't think that UFC sees them as a threat anymore. I won't be surprised even a little bit if they let Masvidal fight one of the Pauls, as long as the UFC has some kind of financial stake, or maybe, I don't know, where they're involved some way, because the Pauls are not going to make any kind of real impact in the UFC's business. I don't think. I mean, it's possible that they might start, if Masvidal does the fight, people start talking about the money that he made. Maybe that kind of starts driving people towards the same outcome of Francis and a Tyson, where they're looking to get out of their contracts. But like, I don't know. It's different for Masvidal because everybody knows he is done with MMA. Like he's, you know what I mean? Like his career is like legitimately done. So anyway, thank you again for the super chat. I see I've got another one here. Let me see what we're doing. Amen. Does Ngannou and Jones ever happen? The only way that it would happen, thank you for the super chat. The only way it would happen would be in UFC, obviously. So Ngannou would have to fight the 2 times in PFL. The first one probably in who knows, dude, in all honesty. Because if they're trying to get this boxing match or whatever he ends up doing in first, let's call it mid to Q3 2024 would be the first fight. And I don't think it'd be reasonable to assume that they were going to do another one within 12 months, or not like, earlier than 12 months, most likely. So you figure the earliest they could even start talking about is mid 2025, most likely. I think John's long retired by then. Unfortunately. Dat boy Rob GFG, thank you very much, dude. Tyson versus Jones will not sell. Jones versus Ngannou. You sound slow. Oh yeah, I sound slow. There's not one person on planet Earth who knows shit about the combat sports industry that would fucking agree with you. Not one. Matt Carney, thank you for the super chat. As a trainer, would you find it easier to bring out the aggression in a fighter, a more timid fighter, or bring out the calm in a more wild, volatile fighter? Here's how I'll answer that. So if they're a fighter, if they're already a fighter, bringing out aggression is not necessarily your goal. You know what I mean? Like you want to, if they're a fighter, they're already like an aggressive person who fight, like they fight, they've chosen that direction. So like being just base level aggressive is not a concern. What you need to do is figure out how a person fights their best and then bring that out of them, because sometimes it's keeping guys calm. Sometimes it's making guys mad. Sometimes, like some guys, you shake them by the head and you're like, this guy wants to fuck your wife, dude. This guy wants to burn your house down. He wants to take your kids and turn them into slaves, dude. This guy wants to put your sister on a leash and dog walk her off a cliff. What are you going to do about it? And then they'll fight the best. And other guys, you know that like the best way that they're going to fight is you start, you slap them on the ass and you get them to play video games and just keep them super fucking loose and get them laughing, like make them laugh. They should be there where they're literally like laughing before they go in. Other guys don't want to talk at all. They just want to be quiet, centered, focused. So like if you're a good trainer, it's literally your job to know what mindset your fighter is going to perform best in and then try to drive that outcome, you know? Because if you try to jam a circle through a square, you're going to be doing more harm than good. You know, if you're like, that's why the best coaches, if you really look at the best coaches, the best guys, you know, and you could think of whoever, put Faraz Zahabi, you know, Trevor Whitman, and also, oh God, Jackson. Oh, Jackson. Yeah. Like Jackson Wink. If you ever like watched him corner Joe Riggs way back then, and you could just see it's like that's what those guys are great at, is really kind of, they're really, really emotionally intelligent. And so they can see what a fighter needs and then they give them that, you know, because like a person who's I don't know, they have a really kind of one-dimensional or two-dimensional way of looking at coaching. It's like, you know, oh, yeah, I shake my guys up and I go, let's go get it. Let's go get it. And then they win. And then that's what you try to do to everybody. It's it's going to work sometimes and it won't others, you know. Greg Jackson, Jesus. I always I go through that every single time. I think I have dementia, but like, I'm like, Phil Jackson, you're like, that's not right. Great. Anyway. But yeah, emotional intelligence, critical to coaching. So, okay, here was the other thing I wanted to talk about also, is this story right here about Nate Diaz. So I saw this headline initially and was like, you know, and read it. Overweight Nate Diaz appears to be too heavy to fight against Jake Paul. You know, where is it? Sparring partner, Esquiva Falco. He said that I had crazy sparring with that guy. Great guy. In the beginning, I thought he was tired, but at the end, it looked like he was dying, you know, because his fighting style is a crazy one. When you look at him, it's like, wait, hang on. Hold on, wait. Am I reading the wrong thing? Hang on. Oh, here we go. He must weigh about 220 pounds now or more. So the only big guy here at the gym is me. So I ended up having to spar him. I enjoyed it though. The fight against Paul is scheduled for 8 rounds at 185 pounds. Diaz, however, looks much heavier than that with just over a month before the event. And I mean, 220. I mean, obviously, like, he is heavy now. He is heavy now. He's overweight. So initially, you know, I was like, whoa, you know, this is a huge story. Like, Nate Diaz is way overweight. Maybe he's not taking this serious. If he's not taking it serious, Jake Paul's going to beat the brakes off of him. And also, it was weird that Nate was the one who wanted to do 8 rounds instead of 10, while Jake wanted to do 10. Like, that seemed very bizarre to me. And that is like that. I mean, that still seems to support what this guy's saying. Like, and you know, listen, dude, Nate was fighting in the UFC for 20 years, you know, and like, to like your regular, you know, like the average kind of combat sports fan. Oh, you know, it's a pay-per-view. He's fighting against this guy. It seems similar, you know, or seems basically like the same thing. I mean, it's obviously it's boxing, but like, to the fighter, to him, this might seem like Mickey Mouse shit compared to UFC. You know, he's like, I'm fighting Jake Paul in a boxing match. And he just might not be taking it very serious. It's possible, you know, it's possible, which would not be obviously a good way to go into any fight. But here's the thing. Here's the other thing, right? I saw this post from Jake Shields. And hang on. How am I not? Hang on. Let me sign in really quick and then get you Jake Shields, because Jake Shields is in a picture with Nate Diaz, super recent, and he doesn't look overweight at all. You know, he looks where is this thing? Dude, Jake Shields' Twitter is off the chain, son. I mean, here we go. First seminar in Nashville. This is June 10th. I mean, I guess he's wearing a black shirt. You can't really see it that well, but like, I don't know. Does he look like ridiculously out of shape? I mean, I don't know. He doesn't look that, and look at his face, dude. To me, if he's 220 pounds, I mean, I don't know. And so when I thought, like, after seeing that, I'm like, so could this be Nate trying to fuck with Jake Paul? You know, like, hey, like someone that he sparred with, hey, tell him I'm fat, dude. You know, like his team, they're all like, say he's super fat, man. Say he's super out of shape and he's totally not taking this serious. Lull that little bitch to sleep. So he comes in all overconfident, and Nate will break him down. But yeah, hang on. Imagine saying you're homeless and turning down $10 million to fight John Jones. Like such a. I mean, the only reason I clicked on this is because I love Buc-ee's, but that is a stupid comment because he signed a $20 million guaranteed contract now. You know, like that would make sense had he not done his new deal, which is $20 million guaranteed. So, you know. Oh, it's back to 10. Okay, good. Yeah, dude, I don't know. That seems suspect to me. Why? Like, you know, like I get it. Like Nate, I get it that Nate is, he's, you know, out of the UFC, but him and his brother, they do decathlons for fun. It's not like he's like a guy who like wants to sit on the couch and do nothing. Those guys exercise because they like doing it. It just seems bizarre. I don't know. I can't make heads or tails of that. A part of me really does not believe it. The Tyson versus Jones mixed rules, they haven't been specific. What I was saying earlier is that I bet that the initial offer for a mixed rules fight coming from UFC is going to be everything except no ground grappling at all. If it goes to the ground, they just stand them back up, you know? So it'd be kicks, knees, elbows, clinch work, obviously punches. It would be, it'd be this basically an MMA fight that just cannot, nothing on the ground, nothing on the ground. That would be my guess. And then maybe, Tyson Fury comes back. He's all, fuck that. He's like, I'm down to do boxing with clinch work and elbows, no kicks. But I would get, my guess would be that Tyson Fury would agree to the kicks and stuff, That would be my guess. That would be my guess. Let's see. No compliance. Let's see. Dana's going to get Jones slapped by Tyson. It's possible. But he's going to make, I forgot to finish my thought. Jesus, man. ADD. So the other thing that Chael said that I thought was so smart about the Jones and Tyson Fury situation is this. Okay, so one of the reasons that I have always said that I thought Dana, there are a multitude of reasons that Dana did not want to do Francis versus Tyson Fury at the time, or wouldn't have wanted to do Jones versus Fury either if Francis hadn't have become a free agent. But like one of the main reasons I was convinced is because he thought Tyson Fury was going to whip Francis's fucking ass in boxing, which is not, that's not like a bad bet. It's Tyson Fury in boxing, he's never lost in boxing to world-class boxers. There's no person with a brain on earth who would bet on Francis if it was even money on both guys. Like no one, not one person on planet Earth would bet even money on Francis. So like, and Dana, knowing a lot about boxing and having seen, he's like, why would I want my heavyweight champion to go over there to get the shit beat out of him in front of everybody and delegitimize the UFC, right? Because that's the other thing. If Francis went over there and did that, it hurts the UFC's brand. He's their heavyweight champion. We're saying he's the baddest dude on earth. Well, we all know that if it came over to UFC, it would probably, very, very, very likely go the opposite direction. So why does he want to send his guy over into a spot where he's very likely to lose, and not only damage the UFC, but also his own brand. So the reason why this is totally different, and actually the inverse is almost true, is like if Dana, so John Jones's career is over. Like John Jones has already indicated he wants to do 1 or 2 more fights, and that's it, right? Like that's all he wants to do, 1 or 2 more fights. And so he is an asset that's going to go away for the UFC anyway, right? He's not like, you're not damaging a valuable asset that you could use that like, oh, now we're not gonna be able to sell pay-per-views because everyone's seen him get his ass kicked because he's going away anyway. But in this case, it's not only that devaluing Jones doesn't really matter. The other thing, if you're and to be honest, I actually didn't see, I saw the beginning of Chael's video. I didn't even finish it. So I don't know if he made this point also, but I'm now thinking this through myself, is in the event that Tyson Fury beats the living shit out of John Jones on his way out, then that closes the door on any other UFC fighters doing this. Like, UFC that like, they'll just go to these guys. They're like, look, dude, did you see how that went for John Jones? Okay. He's the greatest MMA fighter of all time. We let him go do that, and he got his fucking ass kicked. Why would we? No, we're not doing this anymore. People can come over here if they want. We're not doing these anymore. Look at that. And also, it might discourage people from trying to go and fight guys in these mixed rules fights or in boxing if John Jones lost. So the risk profile is very, very different, And Francis becoming a free agent again doesn't matter to UFC unless he's able to secure one of these super fights. So anyway, that's what I got. You guys, I got to go take care of some stuff, but I appreciate you guys. And I will be back later on. Love you guys. Peace.